Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Someone said that Zimbabwe's biggest export is not gold, platinum, tobacco, or any of these other products. It is humans. There is some truth in that. Zimbabwe has lost so many of the people, and many of them highly qualified. It is estimated that in South Africa, there is something like 3 million Zimbabweans there. And a number of them highly qualified. The question one has got to ask is the nation is bleeding so many of its well-trained, skilled manpower. Who is doing this rebuilding of Zimbabwe brick by brick? Who? You can boast all you want. Zimbabwe, all the skilled manpower have left, or most of them have left. And those who are still there, they're underemployed, underutilized. So who is building the country? The truth of the matter is, no one is building that country. A few years ago, the government itself did its own skilled manpower assessment. And in certain professions, like education, healthcare, engineering, and so forth, the regime found that it lacked as much as 80% of the skilled manpower it would require to run efficiently. An organization like NRA said, you need experienced engineers in the various civil, mechanical, electrical, to run that network efficiently. And if you have lost all these engineers with the experience they have amassed, who is running NRZ then? Who is running ZESA? Who is running Grain Marketing Board, etc., etc.? The same can be said about our schools and colleges and so forth. Most of the country's professors have left the country. Those who are still there, some of them are already applying, looking for an opportunity to leave. Nurses, they train as soon as they qualify, they're looking at leaving the country. This is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. And the whole sorry story is being repeated over and over again. So in terms of development, this is nothing new. We have known it all along that manpower is of greater importance as the mineral wealth of the country. Indeed, one could say if you've got a resourceful people, even if you do not have the natural resources, you could still be a very prosperous nation. Here is Margaret Thatcher, former Prime Minister, the late, she's now late, talking about why some nations are rich and others are poor.
Countries are not rich in proportion to their natural resources. If they were, Russia would now be the richest country in the world. Angola would be very rich, and there are many other countries that have a lot of natural resources, but they have not had an enterprise economy to develop those resources. Russia has everything: oil, gas, diamonds, platinum, gold, silver, timber, marvelous soil, but has been poor. She's also, on the second point, got very bad environment. The Aral Sea. I remember going to one communist country in about the 60s and seeing a powder coming out of a chimney of brown gas, which of course is a nitrous gas. And I was absolutely horrified. I said, well, what are you doing letting that happen? The lungs of the people must be terrible. This is acid. You can't let that go on. Tact has never been my strong point, as you know. And it is the countries that have had the wrong system, which have not created the wealth, have not cared about people. Look at the other side. Japan, no natural resources. Switzerland, no natural resources. Taiwan, no natural resources. It is the political system which enhances the enterprise of the people and gives it a framework within which to operate, which will deal with this poverty.
She's absolutely right. This is the sorry state of Zimbabwe's main roads. The other day we were talking about the new rains and how much the nation as a whole welcomed the good rainy season, but also worried about the sorry states of our roads. If you maintain it, you will still have a reasonably good road. But if you neglect it for a long period, then you end up with a situation where you've got to rip the whole thing off and start afresh. This is what has happened in some of even our major roads, like the Bulawayo Victoria Falls Road. The regime, ZANU-PF, neglected that road for so long. When they finally decided to do something about it, it was starting from scratch. The amount of resources you use then is absolutely amazing. If there's one of our main problems in not only Zimbabwe, but most developing countries, is that we fail to maintain what we inherited at the time of our independence, much less to build on what we had. We cannot afford to have a situation where you neglect something, a resource, it becomes so dilapidated to the point where you've got to invest as if you're starting from scratch. Because you spend even more money. There's a famous saying, a stitch in time saves 9. It's very true. If we had been maintaining that resource, the amount of money you would have spent on it would not be anywhere near what you have got now to spend starting from scratch. And even when you've completed it, if you don't maintain it, it will be the same thing again. 5 years, 10 years down the line, you start all over again. What a criminal waste of resources. But that is what we have become. That's the tragedy. What more so when you have lost so many of your professionals? That is the tragedy of Zimbabwe. One of the downside of losing so many professionals is that we have also found ourselves in a situation where we are failing to do the right thing, even in such critical areas as finance and management. Recently, the regime, ZANU-PF, was telling the nation that we are doing very well. And we should be proud of it. And rate of inflation for the country was 3%. And when somebody, Professor Hank, analyzed it, he found that our rate of inflation was 3 times higher than what the regime was admitting. One of the problems we have had with Zimbabwe's economy is retaining a stable currency. The Zimbabwe dollar has lost its value, and at one point, inflation soared to nauseating heights of 500 billion%. The confidence in the country's currency has never been restored. And the stories of rampant corruption have only made the situation, a bad situation, worse. It is tragic. But like it or not, this is one area where we have to sort it out. And the starting point has got to be, we must restore the confidence in our own people, skilled manpower, to go back and rebuild the country. At the present moment, they are not going to do it. Even if they want to, because we have got a political system that says ZANU-PF thugs have the divine right to rule the country, which is, of course, nonsense. No one has the divine right to rule the country. The mandate to govern Zimbabwe should come from the people in free, fair, and credible elections. And that should not be negotiable. Think about it. Thank you very much. Have a